Look under your kitchen sink right now and count the bottles. Go ahead. The spray for the glass, the cream for the tub, the gel for the drain, the powder for the pots, the wipes, the foams, the sprays that promise to kill everything. You probably spent $100 or more this year on all of it, and most of those bottles are full of things you cannot even pronounce. Now picture a family living high in the mountains, cut off from the world, a 2-day walk from the nearest store, snow blocking the road half the year, and ask yourself one simple question. How did they keep their homes clean? The answer is sitting in your kitchen right now, and it costs almost nothing. 2 things: vinegar and salt. That is it. The old mountain families cleaned every single thing they owned with vinegar and salt, and their homes were spotless, their pots shined like mirrors, and their air smelled fresh all winter long. And by the end of this video, you are going to know exactly how they did it, step by step, so you can throw out half those poison bottles and never buy them again. Stay with me, because the very last trick, the one for the thing in your home you scrub the hardest and hate the most, is the one that is going to change the way you clean forever. Here is the thing nobody tells you. The cleaning industry does not want you to know how simple this is. They have spent years convincing us that you need a different bottle for every job, a special chemical for every surface, and that the stronger it smells, the better it works. But the old folks knew the opposite was true. The strongest smell usually meant the most poison, and the most poison meant it was the most dangerous to breathe in your own home. The mountain elders did not have a chemist mixing things in a factory far away. They had the land, they had what they could make, and they had common sense passed down from grandmother to mother to daughter for generations. And what they used, again and again, for nearly everything, was plain vinegar and plain salt. Vinegar is an acid, a gentle one, strong enough to cut grease and dissolve hard water and kill many germs, but weak enough that it will not burn your skin or ruin your lungs. Salt is a scrubber and a drawer. It scratches away the grime that vinegar loosens, and it pulls moisture and odor right out of the air. Put the two together, and you have a cleaning team that has served families for hundreds of years. If you believe the old ways were better, that things used to be made to last and made to make sense, then do me one small favor. Subscribe to this channel and help me keep this old mountain knowledge alive, because once these methods are forgotten, they are gone for good, and I do not want that to happen on our watch. Now let me show you exactly how they used it, one job at a time, and I am going to start with the thing every kitchen struggles with, the burnt pot. You know the one. You cooked the soup, you got distracted, and now the bottom is black and stuck, and no amount of scrubbing seems to get it off. In the modern world, you reach for some harsh chemical, or you scratch the pot to death with steel wool until it is ruined. The mountain way is gentler and works better. Here is the first method. You take that burnt pot and you pour in a good handful of salt, a thick layer right across the bottom, and then you pour in enough vinegar to cover it, maybe half an inch deep. Now you put that pot on the stove and you bring it to a slow boil. As it heats, you will see the magic start. The vinegar gets under the burnt layer, the salt scrubs at it as the liquid moves, and the heat lifts the whole black crust loose. Let it boil gently for a few minutes, then turn off the heat and let it sit until it is cool enough to touch. When you come back with a wooden spoon or a cloth, that burnt mess wipes away like it was never there. The old grandmothers did this every week, and their pots lasted them 50 years, handed down to their children still shining. And here is the extra trick they knew. If the burn is really stubborn, you let that salt and vinegar sit in the cold pot overnight before you boil it. The acid has all night to work its way under the crust, and by morning it practically falls off on its own. But the burnt pot is just the beginning, because the same two things solve the greasy mess that builds up everywhere in a kitchen. Think about the grease. It coats the stove. It films over the range hood. It builds up on the backsplash behind where you cook, sticky and yellow and impossible to wipe with plain water. Grease laughs at water because water and grease will never mix, but grease cannot stand up to vinegar. Here is the second method. You warm some vinegar, just gently, because warm vinegar cuts grease far faster than cold. You can heat a cup of it in a pan for a few seconds until it is warm to the touch, not boiling. Then you dip a cloth in it, and you lay that warm cloth right over the greasy spot, and you let it sit for a minute. The warmth and the acid work together to break the grease apart, turning that hard, sticky film back into something soft you can simply wipe away. For the really thick buildup in the corners, you sprinkle a little salt onto your cloth first, and now you have a gentle scrubber that bites into the grease without scratching the surface. The mountain families did this on their cast iron stoves, on their wooden counters, on everything, and their kitchens stayed clean and free of that rancid old grease smell that grease leaves behind when it sits too long. And that smell matters, because old grease goes bad. It turns the whole kitchen sour, and vinegar does not just clean it, it kills the smell at the same time. Now stay with me, because the next one is the trick that saves people the most money, and it is for something you probably pay a plumber to fix. The clogged drain. When a drain runs slow or stops up, most folks panic and pour a bottle of caustic drain cleaner down the pipe, the kind that can burn your skin and your eyes and eat the pipes themselves over time. The mountain folk would shake their heads at that. They cleared their drains with what they had, and you can too. Here is the third method, and you may have heard a version of it, but let me give you the way that actually works. First, you pour a good half cup of salt straight down the drain, right into the opening. Then you heat a kettle of vinegar until it is hot, almost boiling, and you pour that hot vinegar slowly down after the salt. You will hear it fizz and work. The salt scours the inside of the pipe like sand, scrubbing the greasy buildup off the walls, while the hot vinegar dissolves it and washes it down. Let that sit and work for a good 15 minutes, longer if the clog is bad, and then you flush it through with a kettle of plain boiling water. 9 times out of 10, the drain runs free again. And here is the wisdom behind it. Most slow drains are not solid clogs. They are grease and soap and hair stuck to the inside walls of the pipe, narrowing it little by little until barely anything gets through. The salt scrubs that lining and the hot vinegar melts the grease, and together they open the pipe back up without a single dangerous chemical. The old folks did this once a month, whether the drain needed it or not, just to keep things flowing, and that is the real secret. They prevented the problem instead of waiting for it. Let me stay in that kitchen a moment longer, because there is one thing in there that holds more germs than almost anything else in your house. And the old folks cleaned it in a way most people never think of. The cutting board. The wooden cutting board, the one you slice your meat and vegetables on, soaks up juices and bacteria deep into the grain where soap and water cannot reach. You cannot put a good wooden board in hot dishwater day after day, or it will crack and warp. So here is the fourth method, the way the mountain families kept their boards clean and safe for decades. After you use the board, you pour a generous layer of coarse salt right across the surface. Then you take half a lemon if you have one, but vinegar works just as well, and you scrub that salt all over the board, working it into the wood. The salt scrubs out the bits stuck in the grain and draws the moisture and bacteria up out of the wood, while the acid kills the germs that are left and knocks down any smell, like onion or fish or garlic. You let that sit for a few minutes, then you scrape it off and wipe the board clean with a damp cloth. Your board comes out fresh, sanitized, and smelling clean, and the wood stays strong because you never drowned it in water. The old-timers treated their wooden tools with respect because a good board was meant to last a lifetime, and theirs did. Now, here comes a micro-secret most people miss entirely, and it is about the air itself. Walk into an old mountain home in the dead of winter, shut up tight against the cold for months, and you might expect it to smell stale, closed in, sour. But it did not, and the reason was salt and vinegar again, used in a way you would never guess. For smells in the air, the old folks kept a small open bowl of vinegar sitting out in a room that had gone stale. Vinegar does not just cover up a bad smell the way a spray does, it actually absorbs it, pulling the odor right out of the air and neutralizing it. Set a little bowl of it on the counter after you cook fish or cabbage or anything strong, leave it overnight, and by morning the smell is gone, not masked, gone. And for damp, musty smells, the kind that settle into a closed room or a cellar, they used salt, because salt is thirsty, it pulls moisture out of the air, and most musty smells are really just dampness. A bowl of salt in a damp corner draws the wet out of the air, and the smell goes with it. These two little bowls, one of vinegar and one of salt, kept those mountain homes smelling clean all through a long shut in winter for almost no cost at all. Try it yourself, and you will never buy one of those plug-in air fresheners again, the ones that just spray perfume over the problem instead of fixing it. Let me take you to the windows now, because this is where vinegar truly shines, and I mean that literally. Glass is one of the hardest things to clean well. Most glass sprays leave streaks, that hazy film you only see when the sunlight hits it just right, and worse, those sprays leave a residue that actually attracts dust and makes the glass dirty faster. The mountain folk had crystal-clear windows with nothing but vinegar and water. Here is the fifth method. You mix 1 part vinegar to about 4 parts water in a bottle or a bowl, and you wipe it onto the glass. Then, and this is the part most people get wrong, you do not dry it with paper towel or a regular rag because those leave lint and streaks. The old way was to polish the glass dry with crumpled up newspaper or a clean cotton cloth that has been washed so many times it has no fluff left. The vinegar cuts through the grime and the hard water spots, and because it leaves no residue at all, the glass dries perfectly clear. No streaks, no film, nothing for the dust to cling to. Your windows stay clean longer than they ever did with the store spray, and here is the extra trick. On a mirror or a window with stubborn spots, dried toothpaste flecks, water spots, fly specks, you dab a little salt onto your vinegar cloth and gently rub the spot. The salt lifts it without scratching the glass, and then you polish it dry. Crystal clear every time, for pennies. Now I promised you micro secrets along the way, so here is one for something that drives people crazy. Rust, old tools, an iron pan, a knife left in the sink too long, a pair of scissors gone orange around the edges. People throw these things away thinking they are ruined, but the mountain folk never threw away a good tool, they brought it back to life. Here is the sixth method. You make a thick paste of salt and vinegar, enough salt that it is gritty, and you smear that paste right onto the rust. For a small thing like a knife or scissors, you can lay it in a shallow dish of vinegar with salt and let it soak. You let that paste or that soak sit for a few hours, even overnight for heavy rust, and the acid eats away at the rust while the salt gives you grit to scrub with. Then you take an old cloth or a bit of crumpled foil and you scrub, and the rust comes away and the good metal underneath shines through again. The old folks saved knives and tools and pans this way that other people would have thrown on the scrap heap, and that is the spirit of it. You do not throw away what you can fix, and vinegar and salt fix more than you would ever believe. But we are not done with the house yet, because there is grime that builds up in places you scrub the hardest, and the next one is the bathroom. Hard water leaves, chalky white scale on the faucets, the shower head, around the base of the taps, that crusty build-up that no amount of normal wiping will shift. That scale is mineral. It is lime left behind by hard water, and there is one thing that dissolves it like nothing else: vinegar. Here is the seventh method. For the faucets and the metal, you soak a cloth or a paper towel in vinegar and you wrap it right around the crusted part and you leave it there. The vinegar needs time against the scale, so you let it sit for an hour, maybe two for heavy buildup. When you take the cloth away and wipe, that white crust has gone soft and washes right off, and the metal shines again underneath. For the shower head, the old trick is even simpler. You fill a bag or a small container with vinegar and you tie it up around the shower head so the holes are sitting in the vinegar, and you leave it overnight. By morning, every little hole is clear, the scale is dissolved, and the water sprays straight and strong again instead of dribbling out the sides. People pay good money to have plumbers descale their fixtures, or they just replace them, and all it ever needed was a cup of vinegar and a little patience. Now stay close, because here is a micro secret about salt that the old folks swore by, and it is for the toilet, a job nobody enjoys. For stains in the bowl, the mineral rings that build up at the water line, they would pour a good amount of salt and vinegar into the bowl, let it sit for a few hours or overnight with the water level low, and then scrub with the brush. The acid dissolves the mineral ring and the salt gives the scrub some bite, and the bowl comes clean without filling the whole bathroom with the choke of bleach fumes. And they knew something else, that a regular splash of vinegar in the toilet kept it fresh between cleanings, because vinegar kills the bacteria that cause the smell at the source instead of perfuming over it. Simple, cheap, and you can breathe while you do it. Let me bring you to the floors now, because this is a big one. The surfaces you walk on every day, and they get dirty faster than anything. Most floor cleaners leave a sticky film behind, a thin layer of soap that never fully rinses away, and that film grabs dirt so your floor gets dirty again almost as soon as it dries. You mop, and the floor never feels truly clean. The mountain way leaves no film at all. Here is the 8th method. You fill a bucket with warm water and you pour in about half a cup of vinegar, no soap at all. You mop your hard floors with that, your tile, your stone, your sealed wood, and the vinegar cuts the grime and lifts the dirt and then dries away completely, leaving nothing behind. No sticky film means no dirt magnet, so your floor stays clean longer. And the vinegar smell, which some folks worry about, is gone within a few minutes of drying, taking the old smells of the room with it. For a spot on the floor that is really ground in, a dropped bit of food gone hard, you sprinkle a little salt on it, splash on some vinegar, let it fizz and soften for a minute, and then it wipes right up. The old folks kept their floors clean this way for generations. And their homes always had that honest smell of clean, not the heavy perfume of a chemical pretending to be clean. Here is another one people never think to use these things for, and it is your laundry. The old mountain families did not have a shelf full of laundry products, no special softener, no stain spray, no smell booster. They had vinegar and salt, and their clothes came out soft, bright, and fresh. Here is the 9th method. When you wash a load, you add about half a cup of plain vinegar to the rinse. Now do not worry, your clothes will not smell like vinegar. The smell rinses away completely as it dries, and what it leaves behind is remarkable. The vinegar strips out the soap residue that normal detergent leaves trapped in the fibers, the residue that makes towels stiff and scratchy and makes clothes feel rough. With that residue gone, your towels come out soft and fluffy and actually able to soak up water again, and your clothes feel softer against the skin. It also brightens colors and keeps your whites from going gray because it rinses away the dull soap film that builds up wash after wash. And salt has its place in the laundry too. The old folks used salt to set the color in new clothes so they would not fade and bleed, soaking a new bright garment in salt water before its first wash. And they used salt to lift fresh stains, especially blood and sweat and wine, because salt drawn over a fresh stain pulls it up and out of the fabric before it can set. A handful of salt on a fresh spill right away has saved many a good shirt. Now, before I give you the very last trick, the big one I promised you at the start, let me give you a handful of quick ones, because vinegar and salt reach into every corner of the home. Your kitchen sponges and dishcloths, the dirtiest things in the house, soak them in hot vinegar to kill the bacteria and the sour smell that builds up in them. Your coffee maker or kettle, full of hidden mineral scale, run vinegar through it and rinse, and it works like new and your coffee tastes better. Sticky residue from a price label or tape that will not come off, a cloth soaked in warm vinegar dissolves the glue so it wipes away clean. Smelly hands after chopping onions or garlic or cleaning fish, rub them with salt and a splash of vinegar and the smell is gone. A scratched-up old vase or jar with a stain stuck deep in the bottom where your hand will not reach, drop in salt and vinegar, swirl it around, and the salt scrubs where no brush can go. Ants marching into the kitchen, wipe their trail with vinegar and you erase the invisible scent line they follow, and they lose their way. Every one of these is something the old folks did without a second thought, and every one of them saves you money and keeps poison out of your home. And now, here it is, the trick I told you to wait for, the one for the thing you scrub the hardest and hate the most, the oven. The greasy, baked-on, blackened oven, the chore everyone dreads, the one that drives people to buy the most toxic, most dangerous cleaner in the whole store, the one with the warnings all over the can, the fumes that burn your throat, and the gloves you have to wear so it does not eat your skin. The mountain folk cleaned baked-on grime without any of that. And here is how you do it. First you make a thick paste, and for this you add a little water to your salt to make it spreadable, mixed with just enough vinegar to make it a gritty paste. You spread that paste all over the greasy baked-on spots inside the oven, thick right onto the worst of it. Then you leave it. This is the secret the old folks understood that we have forgotten. Patience does the work for you. You leave that paste on overnight, all night long, while you sleep. The salt and the acid sit there for hours, slowly breaking down the burnt grease, loosening its grip on the metal, drawing it up off the surface. In the morning you come back with a damp cloth and a little more vinegar, and that baked-on black grime that would have taken an hour of furious scrubbing and a can of poison now wipes away with almost no effort at all, because it spent all night being loosened while you did nothing. For the very worst spots, you sprinkle on extra salt and scrub with the gritty paste, and it lifts. No fumes, no gloves, no warnings, no danger to the very oven you cook your family's food in. Just 2 cheap things and a night's patience, the way it was always done before someone decided we needed a poison in a can to do what salt and vinegar do for pennies. Now let me give you 2 more, because I do not want you to miss them, and the first is for something that sat at the heart of every old home, the metal that the family was proud of. The copper pots, the brass handles, the old silver spoons brought out for special days. These go dark and dull over time. Copper turns brown and then almost black. Brass loses its glow, and people think they need an expensive polish to bring them back. The mountain folk brought them back with salt and vinegar, the same as everything else. Here is how. You make a paste of salt and vinegar, and you rub it onto the copper or the brass with a soft cloth, working it over the dull, dark surface. You will see it happen almost as you watch. The dark tarnish lifts away, and the bright metal shines through underneath, copper glowing red gold again, brass bright and warm. The acid dissolves the tarnish, which is really just the metal reacting with the air, and the salt scrubs it free. Then you rinse it well with water and dry it, and that is important. You dry it fully so it does not spot. The old folks kept their good metal gleaming this way for special days and Sundays, and it cost them nothing but a few minutes and a pinch of salt. And the second one is for your refrigerator, the one place in a modern kitchen that gathers spills and smells, where old food leaves its mark. You wipe the inside down with a cloth dipped in vinegar and water, and it cuts the sticky spills, kills the bacteria, and clears the stale clothes smell that builds up in there. and then you leave a small open bowl of salt or a cup of vinegar sitting on a shelf inside, and it keeps drawing the odors out for weeks, so the fridge stays fresh between cleanings. The old folks did not have a refrigerator, of course. They had cool cellars and spring houses, but the wisdom is the same: vinegar to clean and kill the smell, salt to draw it out and keep it away. And it works just as well on the modern machine as it did on a stone-cold shelf 100 years ago. And that is the whole secret of how the old mountain families kept their entire homes clean, cut off from the world, with nothing but vinegar and salt. The burnt pots brought back to a shine, the grease melted away, the drains running free, the boards sanitized, the air freshened, the windows crystal clear, the rust eaten away, the bathroom scale dissolved, the floors honestly clean, the laundry soft and bright, and the dreaded oven wiped clean while you slept. Two things. Things you can buy for almost nothing. Things that will not burn your lungs or your skin. Things that will not poison the home you live in. The old folks did not have a cabinet full of bottles because they did not need one. They had wisdom. The kind that gets passed down and tested over 100 winters, the kind that works. And here is the truth that stays with me. They had so little, those mountain families, cut off and on their own, and yet they knew more about keeping a clean and healthy home than we do with a whole store at our fingertips. We have everything, and we forgot the simplest things. But you do not have to forget. You can take this knowledge, the same knowledge those grandmothers carried, and you can use it in your own home starting today, and save your money, and protect your health, and feel that quiet pride of doing it the right way, the way it was always meant to be done. So here is what I want you to do. Tonight, go look under your sink and pick just one of those poison bottles and throw it out and replace it with vinegar and salt. Start with one job, the burnt pot or the windows or the drain, and see for yourself how well it works. And then tell me down in the comments, did your grandmother clean with vinegar and salt too? Did your family know these old ways? And where in the world are you watching from tonight? Because I love to see how far this old mountain wisdom travels. If this brought back a memory or taught you something new, subscribe and stay with me, because together we can keep this knowledge alive, all the old ways that worked, the ways that saved money and made sense, before they slip away for good. They lived well with almost nothing, those mountain folk, and they have so much left to teach us. I will see you in the next one.